Chapter 3. The Young Girl as a Social Relation. The young girl is the elementary social relation, the central form of desire in the spectacle. And meanwhile, love has been lost in the most foulest of spectacular role plays. The young girl never gives herself, she only gives what she has, which is to say the array of qualities that they loan her. This is also why it is not possible to love the young girl, but only to consume her.
I can't get attached, okay?
Seduction is an aspect of social labor, that of the young girl. The young girl's impotence or frigidity concretely manifests that her own erotic power is detached from her and autonomized to the point of dominating her. When the young girl giggles, she's working. The young girl's reification fits so well into the world of the authoritarian commodity that it should be considered her fundamental professional skill. Sexuality is every bit as central for the young girl as each of her couplings is insignificant, and they are realistic, even in love. The young girl does not content herself with the belief that sexuality exists. She swears she has encountered it, for new gods, new superstitions.
What's a good screw?
Never forget that the young girl who loves you also chose you.
Love sickness can make you lose 7 pounds.
For the young girl, seduction never ends, which is to say that the young girl ends with seduction. Every relation with the young girl consists in being chosen anew at every instance. In this, it imposes the same contractual precarity as work does. The young girl doesn't love anyone, which is to say that she only loves the impersonality of them. She manages to detect the spectacle wherever it is to be found, and wherever she finds it, she adores it. Because in the spectacle, even carnal union opportunely increases separation.
Believe in beauty!
The dictatorship of beauty is also the dictatorship of ugliness. It does not signify a brutal hegemony of a certain paradigm of beauty, but rather, more radically, the hegemony of the physical simulacrum as the form of objectivity of beings. Understood as such, we can see that nothing prevents such a dictatorship from extending over everyone. The beautiful, the ugly, and the indifferent. The young girl does not mind miming submission here or there, because she knows it dominates. Something in this brings her in line with the masochism that has long been taught to women, which makes them cede the signs of power to men in order to recover, internally, the certitude that they possess them in reality. Sexuality does not exist. It is an abstraction, a moment of human relations that has been detached, hypostasized, and rendered ghostly. The young girl only feels at home in relationships of pure exteriority. The young girl is both production and a factory of production. That is, she is the consumer, the producer, the consumer of producers, and the producer of consumers. The young girl's so-called femininity designates only the fact that the spectacle has turned the legendary intimacy of woman with nature into absolute intimacy with the second nature of the spectacle.
Customize your couple!
The couple, to petrify all of the uncontrollable fluidity of distance between bodies by carving out a territory that can be appropriated for intimacy. The young girl gives the word desire a very particular meaning. Make no mistake, in her mouth it does not designate the inclination that a mortal being might feel for another mortal being, or for anything, but rather, on the impersonal plane of value, a difference of potential. It is not this being's tension towards its object, but rather tension in the dull electrical sense of a motor imbalance. Seduction is not originally the spontaneous relation between men and women, but rather the dominant relation of men amongst themselves. Thus, seduction always had sexuality as an empty center, but a center which was repulsive even before its effect was reversed. Shame and exhibitionism are the opposing poles of an identical fiction. Through the eyes of the young girl, the spectacle is looking at you. The young girl's existential posture has quickly irradiated every field of human activity. In architecture, it is called facadism, for example. The young girl possesses her reality outside of herself, in the spectacle, in all the doctored representations of the ideal that it traffics, in the fleeting conventions it decrees, in the mores through which it commands mimesis. She is simply the insubstantial concretion of all these abstractions, which precede and follow her. In other words, she is a purely ideological creature.
Cerebral control freak, frigid obsessive, dynamic conformer, unstable creative type, energetic control freak, friendly emotional type, repressed sensitive type, emotional volunteer. Who are you really?
The essence of the young girl is taxonomical. Among the relations monads can have amongst themselves, seduction is the one that most conforms to their essence. Seduction's fundamental hypothesis is the completeness and impermeability of the two parties, an impermeability to what she nevertheless embraces. That is what the young girl calls respect. Flirtation is the most obvious realm of the mechanical functioning of relationships in consumer society. From all this, we see that fashion furnishes an ideal field for individuals with dependent natures, whose self-consciousness, however, requires a singular or a certain amount of prominence, attention, and singularity. Fashion raises even the unimportant individual by making him the representative of a class, the embodiment of a joint spirit. It is particularly and peculiarly a characteristic of fashion that it renders possible a social obedience, which at the same time is a form of individual differentiation. It is the mingling of the sensation of rulership with submission, the influence of which is here at work. George Simmel, Fashion. The blackmailing of the couple is increasingly becoming the blackmailing of sexuality, but this process has doubled in turn. The young girl really only allows best friends to get close, in whom all sexual latency has been extinguished in advance, and none will be held at a greater distance than those who she has let into her bed. It is the experience of this distance that substitutes the partner for the lover. The behavior of the young girl betrays her obsession for calculation. If she were mine, she would never belong only to me, nor should she. Beauty is there for everyone to see. It is a public institution. Carlo Dossi, Amore, 1887. In her own ways, the young girl is aiming for zero flaws. This is why she extends first to herself the regime ruling the production of things. Her imperialism is not extraneous to the intention of serving as an example for all other blooms. All the young girl's activity, to which she has abdicated all liberty into which she continually loses herself, is cosmetic in nature. In this way she resembles the whole of society, which devotes such care to the maintenance of its facade. The young girl has taken to calling the reified set of her own limitations her personality. She can thus assert her right to nullity as a right to be herself, that is, to be only that, a right that must be conquered and defended. For sexuality to have spread into every sphere of human existence, it was first necessary for them to phantasmatically disassociate it as a moment separated from the totality of the rest of life. The body of the young girl is merely a concession they have made to her, more or less durably, which explains the hatred she has for it. Her body is just a rented residence, something from which she can only derive usufruct, meaning only her use of it as a free, and, moreover, because its very walls, her corporeality, projected as capital, a factor of production and consumption, are possessed by the autonomized social totality.
Who does he think he is?
The young girl is a form of social relation, in the primary sense of what relates you to the society.
The perfect sexual relationship cannot be improvised. You decide on it, prepare for it, plan for it.
The young girl's love affairs are work, and like all work, they have become precarious. As identities without substance, virility, and femininity are but useful tools in the spectacle's management of social relations. They are fetishes necessary to the circulation and consumption of other fetishes. This spectacle loves itself, desires itself, admires itself, in the young girl, its Pygmalion. Caught inside herself, the young girl doesn't express anything. She is a sign whose meaning is elsewhere. The young girl is an instrument of degradation. Everything that comes into contact with her is degraded into a young girl.
Living together, and every man for himself.
The young girl is the extreme point of alienated socialization, at which the most socialized person is also the most asocial. In sexuality, as with money, it is the relations that become autonomized from what they put into relation. It is precisely by imparting to her body, but more generally into her whole being, the character of capital that they have dispossessed the young girl of both body and being. Sexuality is a separation device. In it, they have made socially acceptable the fiction of a sphere of truth of all relations and beings, in which the distance between self and self, as with the distance between self and other, can finally be abolished, where pure coincidence can be found. The fiction of sexuality presents the truth, or appearance, or sincerity, falsehood, alternative, in such a way that all that is not sexuality is rejected as falsehood. It preemptively undermines any possibility of developing relations between beings. The art of distances, through which one can experiment with leaving separation, is constructed against the device of sexuality and its binary extortion. The young girl is also a design element, a precarious floating wall of the modern conditions of existence. Even in love, the young girl speaks the language of political economy and management. The whole world of the spectacle is a mirror that shows the young girl the assimilable can't say that, image of her ideal. In the world of the young girl, the demand for liberty comes clothed in the demand for seduction. The young girl is the anecdote of the world, and the domination of the world of the anecdote. Job. You are entering a highly constructed period that is energetically driving you forward. Everything is coming together. Luck, creativity, popularity. Love. Your charm is bringing you lots of positive feedback. For the young girl, the language of horoscopes is also the language of real life. The young girl displays the specifically magical ability to convert the most heterogeneous qualities, such as fortune, beauty, intelligence, generosity, humor, or social origins, into a single social value, governing her every relational choice. The spectacle seeks to awaken the young girl sleeping in everyone. This is the uniformity whose phantasm it pursues. The deception of porn is that it claims to represent the obscene, making visible the point at which all representation evaporates. In reality, any family meal, any managerial meeting, is more obscene than a facial ejaculation. There isn't room for two in the body of the young girl. The young girl's desire to convert herself into a sign simply expresses her desire to belong at all costs to the society of non-belonging. It signifies a constant effort to remain in harmony with her visible being. The challenge explains the fanaticism. Under modern conditions of production, to love is impossible. In the way in which a commodity is unveiled, gift-giving appears either as an absurd weakness, or as taking place within a flux of other exchanges and thus governed by calculated disinterest. Since man is supposed to know only his own interests, and only to the extent that they don't ever fully emerge, only falsehood and simulation are plausible. Thus, when it comes to the intentions and real motivations of the other, paranoid suspicion reigns. The gift is so suspect that it becomes necessary to pay to give. The young girl knows this better than everyone. The dirty game of seduction. When private property is emptied of all of its metaphysical substance, it does not immediately die. It survives, but its content is then only negative. The right to deprive others of the use of our assets. As soon as coitus is freed from any imminent meaning, it proliferates. But in the end, it is only the ephemeral monopoly on the use of the genital organs of the other. With the young girl, the superficiality of being is caused by the superficiality of all relations.